Okay, perfect. I see people dropping in. That's exciting. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds before we officially kick this session off. So make sure that everyone is here and joining us on this lovely Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday, yeah. Okay, people dropping in super nicely. I hope that you're also having super nice summer weather like here in Vienna, where it's about 37 degrees Celsius today and we're basically dying here at the office. Therefore, it's nice to have a little distraction and talk about something meaningful and something interesting and something that is of such big importance as everyone's resilience and mental well-being. Okay, so we have 35 people now in the audience, and I think that's the perfect timing to get things started super officially. So, hi everyone, my name is Lisa. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Female Founders, one of the organizations that is hosting this webinar today. This is already our second virtual stop of our European tour. I hope at one point it will actually be a real stop in real cities, meeting real people. But for now, I'm very excited to meet you virtually. So as mentioned, this is an event series with the second stop here in Stockholm, kind of here in Stockholm. I would love to switch actually, move to Stockholm right now, because I guess it's a bit nicer in terms of weather. Plus you also have to see. Anyway, so what is this event series about and why are we doing this? And why have we decided to team up with Antler to get female entrepreneurs across Europe connected? So basically, that's actually about it. It's about you, about providing a space where you can meet each other, where you can talk, where you can get connected to other founders and talk about things that really, really matter, like the topic of mental health. Exactly. Just a brief intro about Female Founders for everyone who doesn't know us yet. And I see that there's so many people in the room. That's really exciting. So we started Female Founders in 2016 as a small networking organization, and by now we've become one of the European market leaders when it comes to female entrepreneurship. We have identified two of the biggest pain points in the tech and innovation industry, which is on the one hand side, the access to funding for female-led ventures, and on the other hand side, overall bringing more female talent to the tech and innovation space. Why are we doing all of this? Well, we believe technology is the future. And when we talk about technology, we talk about creating the future. And if our goal as a society and as humans actually is to have a meaningful future for everyone with great opportunities and equal opportunities for everyone, we need to make sure that diverse groups of people actually get a say in creating the future and technology. We're a team of 14 people based here in very hot but still lovely Vienna. And we're trying to solve these two pain points by providing accelerator programs for female leaders and female founders. That's all about it from my end. I wish you a lovely webinar, a great discussion, but I know the people who will be discussing this important topic, and I'm pretty sure that you can learn a lot. Again, one big encouragement, really use this opportunity, not only to learn something, but also to share your stories and especially to get connected. Thanks to Antler for doing this with us. It's always a pleasure to work with you and to bring more diversity and female empowerment to the tech and innovation space. Enjoy the session.
Thank you so much. And first of all, thank you to all of you that are joining us today. It's an incredibly important topic of mental health and well-being for female founders. So thanks for being here and joining us for this session. My name is Anne Tutar, and I'm a partner at Antler. Antler is a venture capital firm that helps founders start companies and also provide funding through our pre-seed venture capital funds. We have a vision of making entrepreneurship more accessible. And through doing that, we have to have a special focus on enabling more women to become entrepreneurs. And that's why we love to be a part of events like this and facilitate for talks specifically geared towards female entrepreneurs. One of the important ways of enabling more women to succeed in entrepreneurship is by sharing openly and share learnings and experiences and help each other out. And hopefully this session will be useful for just that. Before introducing our two amazing panelists for today, I thought I'd share some stats about the topic of mental health among female founders. And especially given the context of the pandemic that we are still in, at least in some parts of the world. So BDC released a new research on mental health of entrepreneurs, and that shows that the pandemic has had particularly alarming impact on women entrepreneurs. 2 in 5 business owners are feeling depressed at least once a week, and female entrepreneurs were significantly more likely to feel depressed. 51% of the female founders said that they felt depressed. Meanwhile, on the male entrepreneur side, it was 35%. Women were also more likely to say that the mental health challenges interfered with their ability to work. So it's also been a quite severe problem. In another survey by Fast Company on entrepreneurship, the 3 main issues that were raised by the female entrepreneurs during COVID-19 was acquiring outside capital, managing childcare, and mental health issues. Today, we are joined by 2 really inspiring panelists that will bring their perspectives on mental health and developing resilience. First, I would love to welcome Linda Waxin. Linda is the co-founder of Ownershift, which is a think tank working to increase female ownership globally. Linda, welcome. Why don't you please share a few words about yourself and your background?
Thank you so much for having me. Our interests are aligned, as you see. So Ownershift was founded 3 years ago out of the frustration that the equality conversation was surrounded around equal pay boards and management groups. And me and my best friend Charlotte that founded Ownershift was really wanting to shift that conversation towards the real power that is ownership. And so that's what I've dedicated my life towards. And we're doing a lot of lobbying, a lot of research and stats and knowledge sharing. So that's about me. And I have a background in the PR industry and as a tech entrepreneur.
Hey, thanks for doing what you're doing. It's just so important work that you're doing. And it's something that I'm very passionate about myself as well. We have to have more female on the ownership side as well. Next up, please meet Bernadette. She is the CEO of InstaHelp, the mental health platform offering psychological counseling online in 5 European countries. I think it's fair to say that you know a thing or two about today's topic, also from the work that you do. So please introduce yourself as well, Bernadette.
Yes, hello. Thank you to Antler and female founders for this wonderful event, and also for addressing a topic which I'm really passionate about, and that is mental health. I myself am CEO of a startup, but I have 2 more babies, 2 little boys. So I'm single mom of 2 boys, and I think we will talk about that later for sure, if you make honest conversation.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and yeah, with InstaHelp, we care about all the emotions that you have. So whenever you feel low or you lose perspectives, then you can easily check into instahelp.me, and you can get access to psychologists online, guaranteed within 24 hours, so no more waiting times. This is something that a lot of end customers value, but also more and more B2B clients like Trivago, Klarna, and so on, use InstaHelp for their employees, for the mental well-being of their employees, because I think many of us experienced it at least last year, but it was also a topic before. We just didn't talk so much about it. Yeah, that psychological burdens are to be addressed. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you as well. I mean, again, such an important area to focus on, and especially knowing the stats that, 50% of all female founders struggle mentally during their company building period. So yeah, extremely important to focus on. I really want this to be a very honest and open sharing session. And just to kind of set the stage, I thought I would share a very short story from my own founder journey. So at age 27, I founded my first company, and I was in a foreign market. I was in Turkey and launched a completely new product category from scratch. And I funded it myself through savings and basically selling off everything that I owned and had, and put absolutely everything into the company. And it was a wild ride. It was so much fun and I learned a lot, but I also have some of the kind of toughest memories from that period as well. And I just have one mental image that I remember so vividly. It was me laying on the kitchen floor of my apartment, bawling my eyes out. I was just hysterically crying. And it was because I felt like the weight of everything that I was doing, my employees, the people that had supported me, the people that believed in me, my customers, my producers, everything just felt so heavy on my back. And I remember just thinking, should I just give up? Like, is it worth it? Should I give up and just, do something else, be employed again, do something, choose a simpler road? And I think, looking back, I was definitely a part of the statistic. I was definitely a part of those 50% that was struggling mentally more times than one during my own founder journey. And it's really tough. It's a challenge to have that much responsibility. And I thought I'd pass it on to you guys again. And I'd love to hear first from you, Linda. What is a recent setback or challenge that you had to deal with? And what did you do to get through it?
A very, very recent one was I had prepared the big last launch before the summer this year, and it was targeted toward the Swedish government with a sharp request of them including financial autonomy into all their policy work when it comes to domestic violence. So we put a lot of effort into it, and on the same day that we were launching, we had no government because of the political development in Sweden the last week. So, and I think even if that's a small setback, it's still it says a lot about being an entrepreneur and a founder, because it's every week about timing. In everything you do, and you just have to go with the flow. So when you sent me this question in advance, I was thinking about how do I deal with it. And I think when I was the CEO for the first time, I was 30 and I had a lot of young employees. And then we had like a 24-hour rule. Like if we lost a pitch or something went haywire, we had like 24 hours to whine, and then just looking forward, just solution focus. And I think nowadays I'm 41, I have like 24 minutes. And then it's like, okay, no government, let's do something else.
Moving on to the next challenge, bring it on.
So I think that's a pretty good tool for me to like, it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to feel shitty and to call the people you need to call and like walk. And then just, okay, moving on.
Your system.
Yeah.
That's a smart one. Thank you. I'd love to also ask the same to you, Bernadette. What is a recent setback or challenge that you were faced with, and what did you do to deal with it?
I think for me, it was really the lockdown phase, which was positive and negative and all at once, but in total it was too much. Because I had my boys, my bigger one just started with the first grade in school. So, but he was not really keen on learning to write and read. So not as many other young students. So it took a lot of effort actually to motivate him doing this reading stuff. And for me, not being a teacher, it was also a new challenge. And my little boy is from kindergarten, and he has many talents, but being quiet and sitting is not really his thing. And so at the same time, however, with InstaHelp and with the pandemic, of course, we had a very strong increase in demand on our platform. Everything doubled or tripled. Companies came in, so everything was actually very positive, and there was a lot of media interest and interviews, and we launched a new product to make mental health or health in general online accessible to everyone. So we had a lot of things to do, and we kind of felt it was the momentum to do a lot of things. And we are very vision driven, so we really want to change something, and we want to make people mentally more healthy and spread out the word. And there was finally this there was this momentum to use that, and we wanted to do so much, and we wanted to help every single person, you know. But at the same time at home, I also wanted to really be the best mom possible, because for my kids, they couldn't see their friends, they couldn't see my parents, whom they really loved. And so everything was so strange, and we always had to be together in this flat, yeah, which finally now is a flat. You can see plants and everything now, but when the lockdown started, this was not really a flat yet, yeah. So it wasn't really comfortable, and there were really times where there was so much to do, and I just didn't know when I should do all these things at once, and I just felt that I couldn't comply anything anymore. And so sometimes I just went into the toilet or the bathroom, locked myself for 5 minutes and cried, and then went out and kind of, okay, back again, yeah. And so I had the feeling, although I'm from InstaHelp, yeah, but I had the feeling also the psychological resources went so scarce. So I thought, I don't go to my psychologist anymore at InstaHelp because others need them now. But at a certain point, I thought, no, I need it for myself as well again. And so I went back to my routine and just talking and having the room for being desperate, yeah, because I always have the feeling I need to be strong. And having this room for myself for a few minutes every week, that just helped me to kind of get my brain right and be focused and see the positive sides of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I start every week, Monday morning, 8:30. I have my therapy.
Yeah. I think
That's
it's
a good
important.
one. Schedule it in. Hey, I was just wondering, I was reading some statistics before we got going, and you know, it's pretty sad and heavy stats, especially on female entrepreneurs. I was just wondering, do you have any opinions or thoughts on why more female founders suffer from mental health challenges than men?
I do have, I'm also part of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor of the Team Austria. And there's continuously the question, for instance, for founders, how capable do you see yourself of founding a business? And every year, globally, you can see that females don't see themselves as capable as men. So the perceived competence of being able to found a company is lower than among men, which means there is more insecurity, there is more fear, and I think a lot of uncertainty, which we are faced with, and the tendency to be very responsible for everything. Yeah. So we can see from these studies that that already from the beginning, females don't feel as capable and as resilient to really go into that process. And so in general, statistics always show that, for instance, females have a higher propensity to suffer from mental illness than men. That is the statistics over years from the World Health Organization. And the same if you see statistics across occupational groups, you can always see how founders in general have a higher propensity to suffer from mental health issues than in other occupations. And I think everybody here in this room can understand why. Just sometimes living from one finance round to the other, this insecurity, and at the same time, this huge passion, you know, you really want to make this thing happen, yeah? And all of this together, there are so many emotions we need to kind of manage for ourselves, plus the emotions of others and expectations, because our families have expectations on us and so on. And so I think all of this is a large burden. So what I wouldn't say that we should not try to do it. I think the solution should be, how can we become resilient? And that's also today's topic. And how can we manage and cope with that stress level better?
I really agree. And I'd love to focus on that going forward, because we know that the problem is there. We know that it's hard to be a founder, but we also know that it's, you know, one of the most exciting things you can do for yourself and your career, right? So what we need to know is how to deal with it, how to build mechanisms and you know, tools in our everyday life to make us handle it in a more productive and better way. And I'd love to hear from both of you, you know, what have you done to take care of yourself? Like, what are advices that you can give on how to take care of yourself through a journey like this?
I would just like to add to the previous question that yes, we need to build resilience, but we also need to change the systems. So we need to lean in and lean out and push back all at the same time, and you need the resilience to do that as well. So but I think that's important to say as well, that if women are struggling more, there are a lot of research to the reasons why. A lot of them we have collected in our report, Why Isn't Ownership Between Men and Women Equal Yet? So there's a lot of knowledge about why, but these norms and stereotypes and social punishment patterns, etc., is possible to change as well.
So what you're saying is kind of maybe saying no to more, or saying no to like giving some of the burden back. Is that what you're saying?
Together as a collective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How can you do that? You know, what can you do today as a business leader or as a founder to start kind of offloading some of your burden?
I think one big step for me have been diving into this research that is out there to understand the norms and stereotypes and a lot of the stuff around social punishment. Because I think, Bernadette, what you describe, like in your small life, you can like take out to a macro level. And it's what we all experience, because women are not expected to go into an owner role, a founder role, striving for money and power and legacy. And that's what you do when you found something like you've all done, right? So there's an extra layer there of, are you a good mother? Are you a woman? Really? With those drivers, etc., etc. So I think to talk about that as we do now, but also in like the small circles among ourselves, it is easier to mentally offload some of it back to society.
And I really like that point, Linda, and I totally agree. The question is, how can we do it? I think maybe we can discuss on that also. And I would like to add to the system also when it comes to the mental issue, because the one is the female issue, but the other one is the mental issue. And one thing that we as a team really fight for is giving mental health a voice, because we don't speak about it sufficiently. And if we hear about all the pandemic discourses, it was about physical health and it was about economics. However, we do see that a lot of people are really feeling low, really low, but we don't really address that accordingly. So there is also the system that helps us not staying only physically healthy, but also mentally healthy, because that's equally important. So I think the equality goes for both sides, females, males, plus physics and psychology.
So what do we do to strengthen our kind of mental resilience then?
I think that the first thing for me is always, I don't think that being resilient means that I'm happy all the time. For me personally, it's more about emotional diversity. So kind of all emotions are welcome, the good ones and the bad ones, although I always claim there is no bad emotion. Acceptance of these emotions and also management of those emotions. So I kind of want to experience and welcome all of these emotions that I feel, but I want to learn how to cope with them. So I train my resilience kind of every day, and my personal aim is to become more flexible in stressful times. I like the word flexible in stressful times, especially. I want to train my brain to be more creative. There are always more solutions. So being quick in finding creative new solutions. Something which is not so easy for me is because I'm very positive in the mindset, kind of working through emotional pain and sufferings, because sometimes life is not easy and not everything is beautiful. But I don't want to, my personality would be, I would like to avoid that situation and go out of a conflict, but I want to learn and work through these emotional pains and enable growth out of this if possible. And the thing that is most challenging for me is kind of worrying less. I don't know how it's for you, Linda.
I think, I mean, how I built resilience is basically taking on bigger and bigger challenges all the time and just like surviving basically. And also I've been doing therapy basically my whole grown-up life. It's the best recommendation I can give to any leader of any sorts, to not project your own problems out to your employees, like take care of them week by week, just as you go to the gym. But also I think like the biggest game changer for me was to learn how to rest. And I did that quite late in life, to understand what rest was really about and what it was for me. And I actually do quite thorough energy mapping. So fun stuff can be draining, and boring stuff can fill me with energy. So like really understand, I call it red and green hours. And really understand how to truly rest, because I didn't do that until I was 35 maybe.
I think that's a great point, and I think it's totally overlooked, because you think that when you're on the couch watching a show you're resting, but that might not necessarily be the kind of deep rest that you really need to.
And I think it's a true key to resilience.
Very good point. I'd love to also, we have a few minutes left, and I'd love to also open up for some questions. We do have a Q&A box, so if anyone in the audience would like to ask a question, please do so now. And while we collect that, I would just want to ask both of you for, your top 3 advice on how to improve your resilience, just as a kind of wrap up and a summary. You've mentioned several great things, but Linda, to go with you first, what would be your top 3 advice to the younger version of me that was crying on the kitchen floor, feeling that, this is just too much to handle? What do you do?
I think I've been that person as well. So I think the best advice I would have needed is that you can quit. I mean, if it's not worth it, it's not worth it, because life is more important than whatever business you're doing, and it's okay to quit. And I think also, since I've been a feminist activist for quite some time and like a media personality, and I think we all are in some way if we're a female founder, right? Maybe you take on like the success of all women onto your shoulders. So I think if you have an acceptance for like, okay, maybe this was not the thing, maybe I need to move on, like it's okay to quit. That's have that in the back of your mind and it'll be easier. And then truly the rest thing, like to really understand yourself and your brain and your body, and figure that out. And I mean, meditation is like the most cliche advice ever, but it's not a coincidence, I would say. And then of course, like have people that are as driven as you are around yourself, so you can share, like truly share with people who really gets it, the responsibility that you described on the kitchen floor, because not everyone can.
Thank you so much, Bernadette. I'd love to hear from you as well. What would be your top three advice on how to improve your resilience?
Yeah, there would be so much to say. I'm going now in the shoes of a female founder, and from there I would say the first thing is kind of dare to care for yourself. I think that's something which is, I perceive it as very important. We always care about our employee well-being, of our kids' well-being, everybody's well-being, but sometimes we forget about ourselves. But I think if we want to be healthy leaders and have a healthy leadership style, we need to start by ourselves. So we are role models in that respect. And what Linda explained, what she learned with 35 to take the time for herself, I think that's something that we can all take away, because I think that is really useful. And that is the second point, or the second advice, is schedule time for it. because we are in busy lives and we have the impression there's always so much going on in our lives. So we need to schedule time for ourselves as we schedule time with our shareholders and take it as a similar priority. And the third thing is, I think I liked Linda's first statement is that you need to put on your own, you should never quit. Yeah, I think that's really strong. I would absolutely underline that. And to some extent, it's always you. If you're feeling low, it's always you who has to find the way out. However, you're not alone. So I think at some points, it's okay to ask for help. It's even a strength if you ask for help and if you talk about it with whomever, yeah, and find ways that help you. I think that would be my 3 advices.
Thank you so much. We also have some great questions and a lot of questions. We don't have time for all of them, but I'd like to do a few of them. So first, Tobias is asking, and I think this is for you, Linda, what do you personally do for deep resting? And how does it make you feel compared to, for instance, just lying on the couch?
I go to the yoga studio every day and I do a lot of calm practices. And I'm a very speedy person and I wake up 5 in the morning. So that's my scheduled time for myself. Yeah.
Thank you. We also have an anonymous question. How do you manage your worries and fears? I don't know who feels the calling to answer that, but if you have some great insight.
Bernadette, do you want to answer or should I?
We can both. I personally had this once, and I went to my Insta psychologist, and she said something which to me the first impression was really strange. She said, "Embrace your fears," and because I said before, it's really difficult for me not to worry so much. So that's my personality. I always think about so many things. I'm this thinker type of woman. And so she said, embrace these worries and give yourself time for that, and give yourself room also to cry. Yeah. So I think accepting these fears is very important as a first point. And then I personally like to reflect upon these things. What is it really that I'm afraid about? Sometimes, for instance, for fears of failure, for instance, I like to ask myself, well, what is the worst thing that can happen? I always have a lot of fear that, because I think InstaHelp is so great, the mission is so great, what if I as a person do it wrong? Yeah, and just because of me, the business is not developing the way it could be. But then I think, okay, what is the worst thing that can happen? Yeah, and most of the times the worst thing isn't that bad, and that puts things into perspective. And this putting things into perspective and reframing helps me a lot. How about you, Linda?
No, I totally agree. I can just add that spelling it out, the fear, like in actual words, in writing for yourself or telling a friend or a partner or whoever, force yourself to put words to it, because then it always, at least for me, becomes smaller than it is here.
I think that's great points, and it's actually what got me off the kitchen floor, was asking the same question that you mentioned, Bernadette. I just kept going back to what's the worst that can happen, and then I realized that it's not so bad, it's okay. So if the company goes belly up or something happens, you just start over, you pick yourself up again. And it was super helpful to me to just go through that and ask it 5 times in a row. Okay, so if that happens, then what's the worst that can happen? And I think, you find ways of building these little tools and tricks that you bring with you along the journey whenever it gets